let's get to drinking some whiskey. This is the most satisfying noise in my job. Excellent. Now, when I take you through a whiskey tasting, I'll take you through how I do it, basically. There are lots of ways to do whiskey tasting. There's no real right and wrong answer. It's all very, very personal. It all depends on the person who's doing it. The way I like to explain it is for basically the novice, so you can build up your knowledge and eventually get into this more deeper aspects of whiskey tasting. So, we start nice and simply. First of all, we look at colour. Colour in whiskey tells you absolutely nothing. The reason I say that is that you can add caramel to change it. At Highland Park, this is a completely natural product. This is all just the sherry casks themselves that give us that massive, massive colour. So a dark whiskey is not better than a light whiskey. A dark whiskey is not more expensive than a light whiskey. A dark whiskey is not older than a light whiskey. A dark whiskey is dark. It means nothing. Then what we do is we turn the glass at 45 degrees and we turn it gently all the way around, and then hold it up straight again. And what you'll see eventually is a line of whiskey that appears across the top of the glass. That tells you two things. First of all, the size of the tears and legs as they appear tells you the alcohol content. This is our 12-year-old whiskey, it's 40%. So if you remember the size of these tears, that tells you it's 40% alcohol. If they're very, very small, it's high in alcohol. If this was wine, they'd be very, very fat. It's lower in alcohol. Also, the time it takes for these tears and legs to go down the glass tells you the viscosity, the thickness of the spirit. And this thickness is created by oils, fats, esters, alcohol. It's basically flavour. The longer it takes to go down the glass, the more flavour is in the glass. It doesn't tell you whether it's good. It doesn't tell you whether it's bad. It just tells you there's lots of it. Now to my pet hate in the alcohol business. What I don't like people doing, especially novices, is this, swirling. If you're a master blender or you make the whiskey, that's absolutely perfect. That's no problem at all, because you know exactly what you're looking for in the glass. And if anything jumps out at you, then you can make a judgment on whether you use it for the whiskey or whether you don't. If you're brand new to whiskey or you're beginning your journey, as it were, you're not quite sure what you're looking for. So if you swirl it, an interaction happens that causes problems. So basically, what you do is this. You swirl wine. Wine is between 12 to 14% alcohol. You swirl the wine to agitate the liquid that allows the alcohol to evaporate, and it carries the flavours up the glass and up your nose. This is 40% alcohol. It doesn't need any help to evaporate at all. That's why usually in whiskey tastings you have the lids on top to stop the whiskey and the flavours from escaping. If you swirl the whiskey like this, all the alcohol tries to evaporate at the same time. It carries all the flavour up the glass at the same time, and it hits your nose at the same time. So unless you're very, very good at smelling whiskey, or you end up with getting a reaction similar to this, they swirl it and they go, oh, all whiskey smells the same to me. It confuses your nose. What I want you to do, if you're new to this, is keep the glass very, very still. You get a flat surface. What then that means is the alcohol evaporates at a constant rate, and the flavours in the glass weigh different amounts, so they separate going up the glass. So all you need to do is take 3 sniffs. You go 1, 2, and 3. The first time you sniff, your nose will tingle. That's your nose recognising alcohol. The second time, your nose won't tingle. You'll get the flavour, and it's usually a sweet flavour. The third time, that sweetness goes, and it's usually replaced with a fruit of some description. How you describe the flavours and smells and aromas in whiskey, chocolate, coffee, cognac, wine is entirely personal. I come from Scotland. You may not, or everybody. You grow up in a different place, you eat different food than I do, so your nose will tell you things that mine doesn't, and my nose will tell me things that yours doesn't. So don't be led by anybody saying, oh, you can taste daffodil picked on a west-facing slope, by left-handed people. It doesn't matter. All you need to do is work out simple questions. Is it sweet? Yes. How would you describe that sweetness? With the 12-year-old, we would describe it as honey. If you were to say white sugar or caramel, it's the same thing. It's sweet. If you were to say the fruit in it, we would describe it as pineapple. If you said fresh green apple or pear, it's the same thing. It's a fresh fruit. But for Highland Park, the most important thing It's all about the sensation. And what I would urge you to think about is when you're drinking whiskey, is to think about what's happening in your mouth. Never mind the nose, the flavours that's going up your nose. What I want you to do is this. Take a sip, you chew the whiskey for 4 or 5 seconds and let it sit on the back of your, and then swallow over the back of your throat. Like this. Cheers. Just chew it, and chew it, and chew it, and chew it, chew it, chew it. And swallow. And with a 12-year-old, what will happen is this. The front of your tongue will begin to tingle. 2 or 3 seconds later, your mouth will dry, and then a couple of seconds after that, you get a gentle, smoky aftertaste that just coats your mouth. And that is classic Highland Park 12-year-old.